Hello, everybody. Hello, Orville Nation. Orville Nation. We have a very, very, very special guest tonight for the 25th anniversary of Star Trek Voyager. We have been privileged with this guest. Let me first introduce our panel. Drew Taylor from Bounding into Comics, Bear Nerd Fun.
From the Fourth Wave.
From the Fourth Wave. And our new friend and co-host panelist is Katie Nicolau from Sioux City.
There you go. You got it. Sioux City, Iowa.
And our very, very special guest and friend of the channel, Manu.
We should have practiced that one first.
You got me all nervous, Manu. We're interviewing ICHEB, Manu Intiraymi tonight.
Hey, it's Manu Intiraymi, but I'll forgive you.
Intiraymi, yes. Yeah. See how nervous you got me?
That's it. All right.
So we're interviewing Manu tonight. It's a privilege to have you here, Manu. Thank you for joining us on Orville Nation. Tell us what you were kind of telling us backstage before we were asking about the origins of your name and about your parents naming you.
Yeah, Manu Intiraymi is sort of a strange name for an Irish American. I'm not like I wasn't like born in Ireland, but I have Irish blood. We're see, I said it the same way. I always refer to them like they're on the other side, but they're both still with us. God bless them. But they're hippies. They're definitely hippies. In fact, every once in a while, my dad will come over to my house and he'll like knock on the door and want to crash on my couch for a couple months. And he'll have his big tie-dye shirt with his big gut. And hey, dude, you can crash on your couch. Anyway, so they're hippies. And they were at the Incan Festival of the Sun in Peru in 1978, and I think they were on some sort of hallucinogenic of one kind or another, either some kind of bark or mushroom or leaf or something particle. And my father decided to call me by they thought that I was conceived there, so I think he thought he was incarnating a Buddhist god named Manu, who was the father of law, or the book of Manu. There's a Hindu book of Manu where he's like a being that comes back to this earth over and over and over again, and he's the giver of law, and he's always here. He's sort of like Jesus in the sense that he's a piece of himself, and he comes to earth over and over and over again, except he comes more than, I guess Jesus only comes twice. Manu comes like over and over and over again. Arrives. That sounded gross. But anyway, yeah, that's the long and short of it, is that my parents are just crazy people, and they gave me a weird, strange name that, I've had to live with. It's like saying, welcome to the world, son. Your name is God. And then you have to live up to that. And so that's what I've been trying to do for 40 years. So that's probably why I became an actor or a producer or writer, to try to make worlds.
Well, I think having a unique name it builds character, and I think it's a blessing.
It's definitely a blessing. I mean, I joke about it, but I love my name, and it's definitely made me who I am in a big way. In high school and in junior high, if you add an ER to the end of my name, you get poop. It's manure, and I had to deal with that. Like everywhere I went, I had to deal with, hey poop, what's up, poop? So yeah, character building. I got over it though, because Manu is a cool name, and so is Intiraymi, and I think they go well together. And I think over the life, I've showed those bullies in high school that, you don't F with Manu Intiraymi.
Heck no.
Show them.
So Manu, before we kick things off with our panel asking questions, why don't you tell us like how you got started in acting? Where was the beginning of this career path for you?
I knew that I wanted to act since I saw a play in McCall, Idaho, called Peter Pan, a little community production of a play. And I saw the actors fly around on the stage on their, back in the day, it was like the beginnings of, wire work in 1985 or 84 or something. And that was it was the 80s too. So like I grew up in the year of like Ghostbusters and Back to the Future and all those incredible movies that have withstood the test of time. Dirty Dancing, even, what I'm talking about. And classic films. And when I saw that play, I just knew that I wanted to be an actor. I was 5 years old. I knew it. I begged my parents to move me to Los Angeles forever. They never did it. But when I was 17, I graduated high school early, and I was doing a play called Marvin's Room. And there was a manager from Los Angeles in the audience, and she came up to me and asked me what I wanted to do after high school, if I wanted to pursue acting. And I told her, of course. And she said that if I moved to LA, she would manage me, she would get me an agent. And so I think within a week I packed my bags and got it. I don't remember what I was driving. I think it was like a $500 Nissan, like 1978 Nissan something or other, little hatchback. And I just packed my stuff and went for it. And then, about a year and a half later, I booked Star Trek, but there was a couple of little roles that got me my SAG card. And it was a couple years there until I got a role that was significant, but just got lucky at that. A lot of things had to go right to get that career started. And one of them being just being in the right play and that manager happened to be there that night,
Wow, that was early that you kind of saw what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I think, I don't think it's that uncommon for people to know what they want from an early age, but maybe it is. I don't know.
No, I definitely knew what I wanted to do. So
yeah,
same boat.
She chases tornadoes.
Yeah, you don't meet many 2-year-olds who say, I want to chase tornadoes. We're kind of few and far between.
Yeah. Tell me the story, though. So did you? How old were you when you figured it out?
Yeah, I was probably... Well, I've always liked being in front of the camera when my parents would videotape me when I was little. But when I was about 3 or 4 years old, we were driving back from an event with the family. And there was a storm, and it was the middle of the night. We're just in this rickety old van, and we couldn't really see because the rain was coming down so hard, and we pull off under an overpass. Fun fact, don't ever do that in a storm. Just keep going. It's the worst place you could be. But we were sitting there under the overpass, and I looked out, and I saw the lightning, and the corn was just whipping. It was like classic Twister. And thankfully, it finished up, and the rain lightened up so we could get back home. And when we got home, we found out a tornado or a funnel cloud went right over the overpass we were underneath. And most kids would be freaked out. Like my brother wasn't really big into it. He was just 1 year old, but my parents were freaked out. I'm sitting here like, I want to know more about it. And so I just started reading more books, watching the Weather Channel and my local meteorologists. And it just kind of took off from there. Twister was definitely a big point though.
And Twister, the film.
Oh,
How old were you when you were under the overpass?
Either 3 or 4 years old.
See it happen.
Wow. Oh yeah. You'll find that a lot. With
I felt just the calling. I saw those actors start to fly around on stage, and I was in the audience, and I could feel the sense of connectivity with just all of the people in that room, at least, that were watching the performance, were connected in some way. And that's what I find so amazing about entertainment in general, is that you can make different types of cultures and different parts of humanity feel each other's stories and feel connected and what we truly are, which is one people,
Mm-hmm.
Katie, because you're going to be leaving us for a bit first, why don't you go ahead and ask one of your questions first?
Awesome. Well, my first question, because for those of you who are watching and didn't know, I am a meteorologist and I did a fandom forecast, as I call them, for the Star Trek universe. And Manu, you saw it, and that made my day in general. But I was wondering, because you saw the forecast, if you could vacation on any Star Trek planet, which one would you choose and why?
Oh, come on. That's an easy question. You can't.
Yeah. No, there's a lot out there.
Everybody's going to pick Risa unless you're.
True.
I mean, come on. I mean, I guess, you know, maybe that's just because I'm a perv. I guess other people would. There must be people that would pick somewhere else. Risa, it's Risa, isn't it?
I think
it's Risa.
Yeah.
Risa.
Yeah, Risa. Yeah. What? The Betazoids? Where do the Betazoids live?
Beta Z.
Beta Z.
Gosh, I'm
Beta
a nerd.
Z. Yeah, I think I go to Risa though. I mean, yeah, that's because that's like the chill, hang out, vacation spot. That's and you get to do all the amazing, you know, pervy stuff there. So I'm in.
It's a good choice.
Yeah. I mean, it's an easy choice and it's a lame answer, but that's what I got.
They got good weather, and it's pretty much 100% of the time. So who wouldn't want perfect weather for their vacation? And
I retweeted your video. Everybody should watch your video. That was really, really funny.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to put the link in the chat.
Yeah, that is an awesome video.
And it just ties back to what you said earlier about like entertainment trying to tie the world together and make everyone happy. I just made to see people smile and to make their days, and apparently it's doing that. So I'm really glad a lot of people like it.
Yeah, it's fun, and that's something that in the future there really, without doubt, will be when we can intergalactic travel. If we make it that far as a species, we'll have interplanetary weather reports. I think that's really fun.
I will be there at 120 years old or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might be lucky enough to merge with the machines. I think that's what's going to happen to us. You know, we're gonna merge with the AI, and we're gonna, you know, so you might live forever. You might be lucky. I think I'm just gonna miss that opportunity. I don't think they're gonna have the fake hearts and brains and kidneys and stuff in time for me, but maybe.
You're gonna have to change your name, Katie. You'll be Katie the Cylon.
Yeah.
So Manu, how were you when you first started? You were very young. How were you received by the adult actors?
When I first started on Voyager.
On Voyager, yeah.
You know, people don't realize. A lot of people don't realize I was 21 when I booked that part. I was a lot older than I looked. So I mean, old 21's still a kid, very much. I mean, at least when you get as old as I am now, it feels like 21 as a kid. But I was a man, at least by that time. I was a legal adult. And so I was respected right off the bat. That was the neatest thing about joining the Voyager cast, is from day one, every single one of those actors was really just, they were really cool people. They were enlightened people, friendly people. They were willing to rehearse and work. And they were really nice about welcoming me to the show and teaching me things that I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that the Borg, when they talked to each other, tilted their heads a little to the left. And, you know, Beltran came over to me and said, "Oh, hey, do you know how the Borg do you know how to do this? You just kind of do that real quick." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks." You know, and you know, and then also, you know, actors like Picardo and Mulgrew, who had all these great acting techniques and camera tricks that they, you know, there's a thing in acting that you don't realize called camera technique, where just little cheats and little fun things you can do for the camera that make you, you know, look better and make them keep the edit on you, and just bring power to a scene, subtle, small things that you can do. And I stole from all these had all these great actors to work with at a young age. I was very cognizant of the fact that I had a chance to learn a lot in a couple of years from these people. And I learned as much as I could. So it was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome, because I'll tell you what, TV actors, for the most part, stereotypically, are kind of buttheads, And the most, like, if you move up the ladder and you start working with famous like A-list people, for the most part, and this is not a general rule because all stereotypes can be broken, but if like the A-list movie stars like Leonardo DiCaprio and Clint Eastwood, people like that tend to be really down to earth, humble, fun, honest, giving individuals. And then when you go down the ladder of fame towards television, you tend to run into a bunch of buttheads. And Voyager wasn't like that. Voyager, like, these actors all understood the show that they were on, and they all understood the power of the show as far as it being a morality play, and it having, you know, episodes that taught things under the surface that mattered in really sneaky, cool ways. Everyone realized they were a part of something important, and they were all happy to be there. And there wasn't any like massive ego battles that I've seen on other sets between TV actors.
Well, that's really awesome.
Yeah, it felt like a family, and I hadn't had that feeling on other shows. It was really cool. I mean, it was really cool. It was really cool. I mean, you know, it was 2 years of getting to pretend that I was on a spaceship and go to work every day at Paramount Studios, and the ship was gigantic. It was 3 big sound stages that you know, were 2 of them right next to each other, and then one that was like a couple blocks down the lot. It was paradise. It was you know, it went by. 2 years went by in a blink, it feels like now, because it was 20 years ago now. 25 years ago for the cast that got to start at the very beginning. I came on season 6. But it was fantastic. The whole journey was an amazing time.
That is incredible.
Yeah, it's gotta be nice to be able to be in an environment like that and learn basically stagecraft.
Yeah,
set, you know.
Yeah,
it's great.
And from a young age too, they were, you know, the show at the time was on the cutting edge of CG, and I got to learn what would serve me later in my career to, you know, work with stuff that wasn't there, that was becoming more and more prevalent. And, you know, as the 20 years went by, I learned so much from that show about just how to be a better actor and how to be a better human being. And after the show, you got this wonderful blessing of going to Star Trek conventions and meeting the fan base and the people around the world, and they welcomed you with open arms, and you got to go, you know, around the world and meet different cultures and see different parts of the planet. And, you know, there's not a lot of shows that come along with that as well. So, you know, I have nothing I can whine and complain and be like a brat sometimes and be like, I wish I had done something better with my life than just some stupid space show. But then I realize when I'm in that mode that Star Trek was pretty amazing, and doing something that outdoes Star Trek is going to be very difficult. So I should just be proud of what I've been able to do. You know? Wow. So, but you know, some of us, all of us get in that little trap of like, oh, we're all, you know, Star Trek actors and we're never going to do anything else. And then we realize that, kind of like the character in Galaxy Quest, where he doesn't want to say the line, I grab Thar's hammer, you know, by grab Thar's hammer, that poor alien's looking up at him, and he realizes, wow, my life actually had a purpose, and I did my dream. And I'm going to say it to this dying kid in my arms. By grab Thar's hammer, I shall avenge thee. You realize that, you know, actually, I've got a good story. The long and short of it is, I was on stage in Germany. I did this episode called Imperfection, where I give Seven my cortical node. Mm-hmm. And I didn't.
One of my favorites.
And I knew that it was going to affect people. I called my mom crying, even reading the script, and said, you know, Mom, I'm doing what I wanted to do. I think this show is going to affect people. This episode's about, you know, giving of yourself to your friends, sacrificing yourself for your family. I think this is really powerful. But then I didn't get to see, you know, when you do TV, you don't get to see the audience react, or it's not like a movie where you can go to the movie theater and see But then a year and a half later, I was standing on a stage in Germany, and I was talking, and this German stood up, and his friend was translating for him, and he said that he'd had a kidney transplant, and that show had helped him, and he was crying, and he was saying, "Thank you so much for doing that work, because it got me through my kidney transplant, and it gave me the hope to believe that it could work and that I would survive." And I started crying on stage, and then he started apologizing to me, saying, I didn't mean to make you cry. I'm sorry. And I was like, no, thank you. Like, that's why we do this whole thing. And that's the power of Star Trek, that you forget sometimes that I've gotten to be a part of. So I always...
You guys mean so much to so many people, really.
Yeah. Including myself. I wouldn't be where I am today without Star Trek. I had horrible stage anxiety. I wasn't able to even perform in a band concert in 5th grade, and now I'm on television because Star Trek helped me to think logically and to think, wait a second, I don't need to be afraid of this. So in every character, every single person who's been in Star Trek is a part of that puzzle. Yourself especially included, because I was watching Voyager when I was 16, 17, and I could relate to your character. And so that was just a huge part of Star Trek Voyager for me.
Yeah, thank you. The difficult thing about ICHEB too, though, is that he was so perfect. He was such a good person, and he was so loyal, and he was so there was nothing wrong with the guy. He was almost a perfect human being. And I think sometimes people expect me to live up to that, and that's been an honor, and also it's been difficult because people expect they meet me, and I'm an imperfect human being. I'm definitely not as good a guy as he was, trying to be. But that's been tough. I'll go up on stage and I'll cuss, or I'll be myself a little bit, and then sometimes people will go to the people at the convention and say, we brought our children here and we expected ICHEB, and that guy said the S word on stage and we want our money back.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Exactly. That's how I feel. So I just continue to be myself and just hope that people love me for who I am.
We do.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely do.
Thank you.
Bear, do you want to go with the next question for Manu?
Yeah. So basically, what are you most interested in as to a project? What?
Oh, I was like, wow.
Yeah. What gets you up during the day? What's that thing that you like the most?
Well, lately, since when I turned 30, I started producing as well as just acting and writing and producing. And the project that I'm working on now is called thecircuitfilm.com. And it started as a sci-fi anthology series where I got a bunch of people together from Battlestar Galactica and The Hobbit and Star Wars and Star Trek. And I put these actors together, and I did a Kickstarter, and we were going to do 10 episodes that all took place in this futuristic city called Urbiessa that was a city of the future. And what happened is, as soon as we did the Kickstarter, it turned into a much larger project than I thought it would, and it's turned into a feature film. And it's basically, episode 1 is a sci-fi comedy in the neighborhood of like Galaxy Quest meets Shaun of the Dead. It's
nice.
That's awesome, dude.
It's Galaxy Quest, but rated R, and it has zombie robots from the future time traveling back to kill a bunch of Star Crew actors at a premiere party, and they get trapped in this time loop, and it's all sorts of fun. It's got the comedy like the comedy in what was that movie called? This Is the End.
Mm-hmm.
See that?
Yeah.
It's basically that style of like, you know, dark comedy.
Dude, I love that movie too.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's going to be a bunch of people that the geek culture knows and loves. You can see it at thecircuitfilm.com. You can see some of the actors we have. And we're also approaching 2 really big A-list actors right as we speak. And if we get them on board, we're going to be shooting late this year for about 1.7 million. So it'll be the first film that I've made that's above the $1 million budget.
Nice. Oh wow,
That's incredible.
Yeah, so that's the most exciting thing.
Well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm so
Thank
hyped
you.
for this.
Thank you. You know, we're not there yet. We're not fully financed, so we're still building our way there. But it's a lot of things over the next month. It's looking like we're going to be. So cross your fingers for us, and hopefully we'll get this out soon enough to the public.
If you have any links, make sure we get some links.
Yeah,
we'll
of course.
share out that
Push out
stuff
for you.
Yeah, it's thecircuitfilm.com. You can also follow us on Facebook at The Circuit Movie. And anytime that we have something cool happen, I release an update. And you can also just go on the Kickstarter, and you can see a little bit what the ultimate goal is. The ultimate goal is to release the film, and the film introduces us to this idea of this place called Urbiesa. And if the film is successful, then we would go and pitch it as a series and try to make the series happen as well. That's the ultimate
nice.
goal.
That would be great.
Awesome. If you ever go out and film on location, I'll give you a forecast.
Okay. Yeah, and you don't even know how that's super important. Producers so overlook the forecast sometimes. We were gonna do a Western, and one of my producers said, "Hey, let's do it in Oklahoma." And I was like, Oklahoma during the winter, but we're shooting like the West. It takes place in a desert. Like, isn't there snow in Oklahoma? And he hadn't even thought of that. So I was like,
wow. Oh, maybe I should expand out to Hollywood.
Yeah, we need people like you out here to, tell us what the weather's going to be like. The weather is such a, it can destroy films. You look back at so many big movies have been derailed by the weather.
I think, what was it, Jurassic Park? I think they were in a hurricane.
Yeah, Jurassic Park had their whole sets like washed out to sea, and
oh wow,
it seems like it's happened to Spielberg a few times. Jaws, the weather did a number on them a couple times. Waterworld, I think, got destroyed.
Oh man,
millions and millions of dollars of sets got destroyed by weather.
Man, I'm gonna have to look into that now.
Yeah.
By the way, Manu, I just posted the link to thecircuitfilm.com, and I saw the actors involved. I'm like, wow. Yeah,
there's a bunch of great people there. And then if we can get these 2 movie stars to play the parts we want them to play, I can't announce them right now, but I recently just worked with them, so people can guess. It'll be really, really good, and it'll be off and running.
Well, Manu, I think I just want to say this now before we move along, that this channel will totally support your project, and we'll work. We will promote it. We'll promote the hell out of it.
Thank you.
Awesome.
You can absolutely still donate to the project. We won't be sending T-shirts and hats and stickers out until we get to production, but all those things on the website are still available, and people can donate.
And our friend Corin, who we interviewed last week, is on here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you guys know each other, huh?
Yeah, I've met. Well, see, that's the thing. That was the coolest thing about, one of the things about being on Voyager is the 20 years of conventions afterwards. I found myself sitting at tables with like Harry Potter's to my left, to my left. That's over here. Harry Potter's to my left. Princess Leia's to my right. Across the table is Knight Rider, and I had to pinch myself and go, if I was like 5 years old and knew that I'd be sitting here, 25 years later, I would be jumping up and down and doing backflips. So you get to meet all these great people from all these projects and all these shows that you love at these conventions. So I met Corin a couple times at a convention, and then just asked him if he wanted to be involved, and he said yes.
Cool.
Wow.
And to me, Corin was like, when I was a kid, Corin was Parker Lewis. I
Totally,
watched
yeah.
Parker Lewis Can't Lose. That's who he was to me. But then he's also been a star of Stargate and a bunch of other great stuff. So,
Does Bounding into Comics want to go and ask the next question, Drew?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I told a story right before you got into the chat room, Manu, about for 13 years of my life or so, I worked at a haunted attraction every season, and that was what got me into liking scene blocking and kind of playing around with acting, and especially doing behind the scenes things like makeup. And I wanted to ask you, what was the process like for full Borg makeup? Like, especially when you had to do an episode that had, the full prosthetics and everything.
it was like the cutting edge makeup of its time. I mean, we took about my costume altogether took about 4 hours to put on.
Ooh.
We would show up at like 3:45, 4 in the morning, and then we'd be shooting by 9:30. But it was like a full bodysuit, and I had a little pantyhose that went all the way up my right leg that had some Borg components on it that they had to fully airbrush to make it look like the rest of my body. And then they had a bald cap that they put on, and on top of the bald cap, they would actually have me hold these electrodes in each hand that were connected to some type of battery, so that there was an electric charge running through my body. And they had some like glue of some type on my head, and they would shoot hair out of this gun, that these little hairs that would stand straight up when they hit the glue because I was electrified. And that's how they put that
cool.
little fake hair on top of me. And I could listen to the sounds of the airbrush and the gun, and I could feel the makeup blowing on my face and the weird way the bodysuit felt. And I just kept saying to myself, I'm being assimilated. I'm being assimilated. I'm being assimilated. And I don't know if that helped me as an actor or not, but I was 21, just trying to fit in. And yeah, I mean, it was really cool. It was, and then you had these electric components also that blinked, that people had to follow you around to turn off during the takes, so that they didn't kill the batteries. So half of your body's blinking, and other little pieces would fall off you. And so they had like 3 people follow you around everywhere you went, to make sure that none of your costume fell off, because you couldn't necessarily hear it, because I had this big foam rubber piece over my ear that, it looks metal, but it's not. It's foam rubber that they paint silver. And so you couldn't really hear really well while you're in there. So you can't really hear your voice very well. It makes acting a little hard when you can't hear what you really sound like. And then some of the Borg, like the guy that played my brother in that episode, had to go around not seeing out of one eye the whole time.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's quite complex, and having the people follow you around is really weird, especially when you go to the bathroom.
No.
Yeah, and so you've got 3 people standing outside your stall to make sure your costume's not falling off. It's quite an experience, and I would say I'm so lucky that my character got to become deborgified or back to his mostly his original self, because it was much easier to do the ICHEB makeup than the Borg makeup. I couldn't imagine having to do that every day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, like say somebody like Johnny Phillips, Ethan Phillips had to do for Neelix, or some of those intense makeups, or makeups like Doug Jones has to wear. Those guys, they're just unbelievable. Like Johnny Phillips, Ethan was so cool about, he had to wear a carpet basically. His outfit was really, really hot. and he had that full makeup on, and he had teeth, and he had eyepieces that he had to put in that were really uncomfortable. And he did that for 7 years, and I don't remember him ever complaining about it. The makeup's on those shows, and the Orville and Star Trek and a lot of these sci-fi shows are pretty remarkable things to get to wear, and also just those artists are incredible artists.
And by the way, Doug Jones and Ethan Phillips are on that list for the Circuit film.
For the
right?
Circuit, yeah. And episode 1 is called Star Crew, and it's very much, like I said, that's all we're announcing now, is that it's a feature-length film and it's a sci-fi comedy, and it'll be a Circuit film. Episode 1, Star Crew, is going to be the title.
That sounds amazing, Manu.
Yeah, that project really sounds awesome.
It's going to be fun. I just hope Galaxy Quest 2 doesn't beat us to the punch and come out first. But it's a different movie. I mean, it's very much it's along the lines of those type of films. But even if Galaxy Quest 2 came out, our film is different enough that I think people would dig it anyway. Because it's a sci-fi comedy, but it's also like a horror film at the same time. So awesome. you being in the haunted houses, there's a lot of blood and guts and zombie robots in this thing, and you'll dig the horror aspect of it as well. Yeah,
see, it's cool. It's nice to see something that has science fiction and horror crossover in it, because it's like you said, Manu, there's not a whole lot of stuff right now that actually has a crossover in it like that. I think the last stuff around the industry was the Alien stuff, the most recent Alien movies that they had, and that was about it.
Yeah, and that last Predator movie was
that too.
Was kind of a sci-fi comedy. There's not enough of them, honestly. Yeah. I think they're a great genre when they cross those genres, and I can only think of like maybe 10, 15 films that are sci-fi comedy horror films, or even just sci-fi comedy films. They don't make very many of them, and I don't know why, because I think they're a lot of fun. And it's definitely time for another one. So we have this film that's like satirical, and we're fully making fun of all the different types of sci-fi genres and all the different tropes that you see in films over the last 50 years. And we've got the actors from those films playing versions of themselves. It's going to be very fun.
Yeah, I know. That's what makes it the coolest is that you get the actual actors. Just awesome.
Yeah. Manu, with regards to comedy, how do you feel about the mix of comedy and drama on the Orville?
I think it's great. I think why the Orville is so funny is they decided to tell it. They decided to make it such a drama. I think if they would have gone for straight out comedy just the whole time, I think the show wouldn't have worked. And it works because it has all the hallmarks of a Star Trek show. It's got the heart. Like, I watched an episode just a couple nights ago. I rewatched the episode where he goes, what's the actor's name? He goes into the Scott Grimes. He goes into the world and meets the girl from our time in the iPhone, and it's such a beautiful little love story, and it was funny. It was really funny, but that's because of the love story and because of the drama and because of that great storytelling that comes from Star Trek. I don't know if Brannon wrote that episode or not, but there's a lot of the Star Trek behind the scenes people work over there, and a lot of the ex cast of Star Trek actors have worked over there, and I just love how the show works. I think it does work because they've taken so much of what is good about Star Trek and then added comedy to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you tell us one thing that you've learned from working with Brannon?
Don't flirt with his girlfriend. No, that's not true. Well, I mean, I didn't learn that. I didn't know at the time when I joined Star Trek Voyager, Brannon was dating Jerry Ryan, and I didn't know that. And I'm so lucky. I tell him, the last time I talked to Brannon was a few years ago, face to face. And I said, do you know the very first episode I did, my car was broken down that day, and I was outside waiting for a cab to pick me up and take me home. And Brannon pulled up in like this super cool car. I don't remember what it was, but nice car. And he pulls up and he goes, "Hey, what's going on?" And I go, "My car's broken down, sir. I'm just waiting for a cab to come pick me up." He goes, "Well, jump in. I'll give you a ride." And I was like, "No, that's okay. I already called the cab. It's coming." He's like, "I'm only the executive producer, moron. Get in the car. I'll take you home." And I still said to him, I was so dumb, young. I said, no, it's okay. The taxi's on his way. I don't want to be an inconvenience. Go ahead. And he drove off. And years later, I'm so thankful. And I went up to him and I said, "Brannon, you don't even know. I would have been fired off your show if I would have gotten in that car with you that day, because I would have immediately said, 'Oh, that Jerry Ryan, she's so beautiful.' And I wouldn't have known that you guys were together, and I never would have been on the series. You would have fired me day one." And he laughed. But Brannon was so cool. I mean, Brannon is and he's a really incredible writer. That's what I learned from him more than anything was. I mean, someday I'll be able to, if I ever get to run my own show, I'll get to take some tools from his bag of tricks. But his writing is phenomenal. As far as episodic hero's journey, TV writing that affects your heart, he's incredible at doing that kind of stuff. And what he did to me as a young man that I'd love to pass on to somebody someday was, I didn't know how long I was going to be on this show. And I didn't know when I got the part that I was going to be on the show for the next 2 seasons. And episode by episode, my character became more and more prominent. And then they gave me an episode called Child's Play, where I think it was, looking back on it, I think it was a test episode to see, can this young man handle a full episode? Can this character carry a full episode?
Wow.
Can he? And about 3 days into shooting, Brannon came down to the stages and walked up to me and shook my hand and just said, "Hey, son, I want you to know you're doing really good work on this show, and we're proud to have you here." And what he was saying was, we're going to keep you around for a while. But he didn't say it. He just said, "We want you to know you're doing good work," which immediately made me go, okay, that's the boss. And he thinks I'm doing good work. Okay, I need to keep doing good work. It was very, motivating. And he was also very kind. I mean, the first day that I did that show, I hated my Borg suit because they had designed this outfit where both my skinny 21-year-old lanky white legs stuck out of it all the way up to my crotch. So I was full cool looking Borg, except I had these geeky white legs that were that had nothing on them at all but my white human skin, because the idea was that I was half generated, And I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to show people my white legs. They're ugly and skinny. And Brannon looked at me, and I actually called the head. The head of the show had to come down. Him and Berman had to, because I refused to work. I was like, you got to do something better than this. I can't do this. And Brannon looked me up and down, and he went, I wouldn't want to wear that either. And he goes, "How about we give you some pantyhose, and we put some cool pieces of Borg implants on your legs?" And I was like, "Yes, please." But I was being a real brat, knowing of what I know now about acting. You don't do stuff like that. You don't make the heads of the show come down to approve your costume or so that it was totally not an okay thing to do. and he put up with it and knew that I was a kid and made me feel comfortable and allowed the show to go on. So, he's just a pro at writing, at dealing with whiny actors, at inspiring young actors. I'm a fan of Brannon Braga.
Well, I have to apologize. I have to scoot out and do the weather, but I'll be back if you guys are still chatting.
Okay, thanks so much. Thanks, and everybody watch her thing on Twitter. It's
Take
on
it
my
easy,
Twitter.
Katie.
Oh, thank you,
Come
guys.
back. We'll be here. Come back, Katie.
Okay, I will. Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
Sorry, guys. I tend to ramble on. I just
No, please do. We're Manu. We're here to listen to you.
Hey, my
Go
3
Bear.
questions, you answered them with your 1.
Okay.
Yeah, because basically, what are you interested in? What is your passion, and what gives you joy? And sound like your project that you're working on. That sounds like all 3.
Yeah, it's I want to make people laugh first and foremost these days. I haven't done a comedy. I've been playing all these villains in indie films for the most part, and it's going to be really exciting to do a comedy. And for me, just entertainment in general is great movies make, to me, the best movies are movies that touch your heart or touch your brain or touch something in your humanity that just rocks you. Like the Joker, right? I don't know if anybody saw Joker, but Joker was such a powerful film as far as the way that it kicked you in the chest. It literally, if you see that movie alone and just get sucked into the film, it is so powerful that I left the theater a little shaky because it was such an effective film, taking me into that man's dementia and not dementia, but demented world and what had happened to him. And you walk out of that film having understood the mentally ill more than you ever wanted to possibly know, the suffering that some person in this world could go through. That was what I thought was so interesting about the Joker, is they found what would be a reason, what would be a life that would cause a person like this to exist. And you went through his suffering with him. And in the opposite spectrum, you can see a film that is so inspiring. Like, I don't know if you guys saw the Oscar film a few years ago about the gay black man growing up, and it was played by the Moonlight. Did you guys see Moonlight?
Yeah.
Okay, Moonlight was amazing. And it was basically, you got to see a young kid in the hood grow up from, the age of 3 all the way to 40, closeted, and then come out as he got older. And it was, I felt like when I left that movie that I could now relate to what it was like to be, to have to experience, being a black man in the hood, which is something that I would never, a black gay man in the hood. I got to feel a little bit of what that would be like, and that movie just rocks you to the core. And to me, that's what interests me, is art that actually sends a message that makes you feel more connected to your fellow man. That's what excites me more than anything,
That's with Mahershala Ali, right?
Yeah, Mahershala Ali. He was in that. Such a good movie. And and then of course I love, just stupid slapstick comedies, and I love other things too. And I love good food, and I love snow skiing and snowboarding, and there's a million things about life that I love. But what interests me most is trying to make art that affects people, because it's such a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I like that guy.
Yeah, he's a badass. He was great. Green Book. Did you see Green Book?
No, I haven't. There's quite. I've seen him in a lot of TV shows, and I really like what he does.
Yeah. Talented actor.
He played in. I might be confusing TV shows. Wasn't it House of Cards that he played in?
Maybe. Was Mahershala Ali in House of Cards? He also, Mahershala Ali gives me hope that, because that's quite a name. I figure if Mahershala Ali can become Oscar-worthy famous, then Manu Intiraymi might be able to as well.
Yeah, he was also in Alita Battle Angel.
Yeah.
And I picked that up on 4K Blu-ray.
How is it? Was that a good? I'm gonna see it tonight.
Oh,
Dude, Alita is amazing.
Alita, it's awesome.
Oh, that's great.
As
soon as we finish this interview, I actually have that sitting on my desk waiting to watch. So that's what I'm gonna watch.
Yeah,
now.
it's based off a manga, and it's Manu. It's so good. It's such a good story, and
Cool.
and I think nowadays, I get that a lot. Working for Bounding into Comics, I mean, we're seeing that a lot of the mangas and stuff are a lot more popular right now than even the stuff from DC and Marvel.
Yeah.
Oh, he played in Predators. He played Mombasa.
Yeah. Mahershala. He's been around a long time.
Yeah, I like that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he was in House of Cards. Ronnie, I think.
Yeah.
Remy?
I liked him in that.
I
I wish they would have been a little bit more expansive on his character.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
Yeah, I am stoked to see Lita then. I was hoping that it was good. I'm a fan of about half of his movies, I think, are just amazing, and the other half I get let down by. But I'm, you know what? That's not true. Every single movie that director has made is a phenomenal film. It's funny how we as viewers can nitpick movies and be like, "Oh, that film wasn't so good," but people don't really understand how hard it is to make movies. And any movie that is even one scene in the film is good, to me, is a good movie, because I've been through movies that are bad. But those, I was hoping that I was going to get to see something that was as neat and new as when he made that Frank Miller comic book series, Sin City.
Yeah.
So, and Alita Battle Angel looked like, I'm going to get to see some stuff that I might not have seen in any other film. This character looked pretty interesting, so I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, and the actress knocks it out of the park.
Complete hero's journey.
Yeah.
Well, so it was played by a real person in like a suit, or was it just the face that they used?
Her face was real, but there was what would you call it? The work that was done with Gollum, that actor, I think it was that kind of technology.
Motion capture, mocap as well. Yeah. So cool looking. So yeah, I'm excited to see that. I wish I would have seen it in the theater. Those are the type of movies I usually go out for the theater for. But I have.
I didn't. Go ahead.
I have a projector surround sound in my room, so that's as close as I can get. Yeah, as close as I can get to the theater experience.
Captain Spire says, "Thank you for your work in Renegades."
Yeah, absolutely. That was awesome.
Hey, Captain Spire.
Captain Spire, thank you. It was. I thought it was an opportunity to get to play ICHEB again in a completely different light. And it was an opportunity to work with Walter Koenig, and Renegades 2 was like all his story and a hero's journey story for Walter that I felt like he never got in the Star Trek films. And I really just wanted to be a part of that with him and watch him do his thing. So it was a joy to get to do that. So thank you. Yeah. It was also fun to do in Renegades 1, the ICHEB arm that was a weapon I guess they had gotten this Borg technology that they'd put him to sleep and unwillingly gave him, and it was like these this technology that made him angry and ruined some of his intellectual capability, and also gave him this weapon that his arm could change into anything he wanted it to. And that was some neat CG work that we got to play with.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that I found it pretty awesome, man. You know, I still wish that they would have picked that up and made it like official canon, because it was great.
Thank you guys. I just acted in it, so I can't take credit for anything but the acting. But
yeah, it definitely it fits in my head canon, dude, for sure.
Cool.
Oh, indeed.
Manu, if we can just move from this point, let me just ask you if, and you may not even be able to answer, I don't know. Is there any chance of you being involved in Star Trek Picard?
There is a chance. I can't answer to any more degree than that. I have good friends over there. Roddenberry's a good friend of mine. Trevor Roth's a good friend of mine. Kirsten Beyer loves the ICHEB character. There, I can say that it's a possibility. That's what I can say. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Okay. Well, ICHEB was one of my favorite characters, to be honest.
Yeah.
And when Voyager was, I really identified a lot with ICHEB. You and your character were one of my favorites, Manu.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think there very much seems to be room for. I feel like if the show is going to continue to be a fight with the Borg, that ICHEB wouldn't be anywhere but by Seven's side in something like that. So
Totally.
if that's the story that they continue to tell, we might see ICHEB show up. We'll see.
Indeed, that'd be nice.
Drew, do you want to go ahead and ask the next question?
Yeah. So I wondered, Manu, do you ever get inspiration from any other things like video games, things of that nature? Do you ever sit down and have a good gaming session and say, oh, wow, that game told a story. That's cool.
Not lately. I haven't had time lately to play many video games. The only video game that I've been playing lately is this game called Badland Brawl on my iPhone. That's just this little tower game where you've got these little chess pieces not chess pieces, but these little characters that you launch back and forth to try to destroy each other's tower. And it's based on like the Badlands series of games, but inspiration from video games. Yeah, BioShock was a great game. I can say that like I used to be such a diehard gamer. The last like 10 years or so, I feel like I don't have time to play, because if I do play, I end up burning. I get sucked in and I'll lose 3 days and I won't sleep and I'll just like eat horrible junk food the whole time I'm playing. So I have a couple systems here, but they don't get played. We played the Arkham Asylum games. Was the last games that I beat. And I love the Batman series. I love Batman in general. But I think I'm more inspired by reading and comic books and stuff than I am by everyday life than I am by video games, even though I like them quite a bit. My buddy Yoshi, who's a game designer and a CG specialist, has the Oculus and has the whole system rigged up in his house where he's got the bow and arrow that you can pull and all the gloves. That's quite an experience, and
I would go nuts over that.
Yeah, I'd stay in there I went over there and stayed inside that world for at least a day once. And I couldn't imagine.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine owning it, because I don't think I would leave that world very often. But no, I haven't been playing. I haven't been gaming much lately.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the last thing that really left an impression on me, back when original Xbox came out, the first two Knights of the Old Republic games. Those were ones that just left like an indelible mark on my memory with the storytelling and character development and everything. I mean, that was peak BioWare back then. So
you want me to really date myself? Let me do this. The beginning of a game that I can remember that inspires me most and gets me most psyched, or got me most psyched for the story, was the old school first Nintendo Ninja Gaiden.
Oh, dude!
Right, where both those ninjas, and it's your father, and he gets killed, and it's your mission to go avenge your father. And I remember just like, I'm going to do this. And then Ninja Gaiden was so hard to beat that it was like, I can't save my dad. So that's how dated I am. But that I can still remember, like how as a kid, how like strongly I felt watching that opening.
You said ColecoVision, right?
No, it was.
I
had a ColecoVision, but it was the first Nintendo. It was the
Nintendo.
Yeah.
I think I was like.
That was the 8-bit. That wasn't the Super Nintendo. That was the old 8-bit.
Yeah. It was the first Nintendo that came out with just the regular Mario Brothers and Ninja Gaiden. And, I did have the ColecoVision. I remember I had Time Pilot and Smurf and was Sinistar on that one?
Yep.
Yeah,
I think so.
Maybe it was Atari.
So long.
Yeah, it had that little funny, weird controller where you had to put your palm on it, and
that was weird.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear of the Odyssey?
The Odyssey.
Yeah, the only good game it had was Pickaxe Pete. It was all silver, and it had kind of like the first state of the art bubble push button keyboard, and it looked a little bit like Atari. Only difference is it was really, really expensive, and it was one of those experimental things that didn't go very far.
I vaguely remember the game Pickaxe Pete, but I never had the Odyssey.
It was like a copy of Donkey Kong.
Definitely had the Commodore 64 and all the games that were on it. I loved all those games. I really remember a game called Jumpman that I really Commodore. How old are all of we, huh?
I'm 48.
Right? Like I said, man, I'm going to be 46 next month, so I go way back to the quarter arcades and old Atari, man.
Oh man, nothing like after school going to Balls and Strikes, batting some balls, playing some video games, playing some pinball. Even
what game I loved back then too was was that game with Dirk the swordsman.
Oh, Dragon's Lair.
Dragon's Lair, yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, for its time, it was like
that was cutting edge, man. That was
the
time they used like really, clear animation in games, and people loved those games.
Remember Gauntlet?
Yeah, I played Gauntlet like crazy.
You remember Gauntlet came out on PS2?
You are about to die.
Yeah, it was probably one of my most favorite games when it finally came out on the
Valkyrie
PS2.
About to die.
Because other than that, before that, you had to go to an arcade to play that game.
Yeah.
And then it came out on when it came out. I think me and my buddy, when it came out, I think we played that game for 4 days straight. I don't think we got much sleep.
Yeah.
Manu, we have a question from somebody in the submitted from somebody. Do you do any voiceover work?
The only voiceover work that I've ever done is for movies that I've been in. I've done like voiceover work for the character that I played. I'd love to do more of it. I've just never really made an attempt to reach out through my agency to the voiceover community. I probably should. I think I have a good voice. I do characters. I do stand-up comedy. So I probably should, but no, I haven't done a lot of voiceover work.
Actually, you just hit on my next question. Do you do any impressions?
No. Yes, but
that you would want to share. That you would want to share.
Not that I'm going to share tonight. Not tonight. My voice is actually a little shot right now, so I'm scared it's going to come out bad. So I'll just leave it for maybe the next time we come on. I promise you that if you guys have me back someday, I'll bring some impressions.
All right.
Oh, we'd love to. We'd love to have
Absolutely.
you back. All right. And before I forget, sorry guys, before I forget this, I just wanted to ask. There's a lot of actors like we kind of know the actress Lindsay Wagner, and she'd scanned herself for a video game not too long ago. Have you thought about scanning yourself, or have you scanned yourself?
No, I've never scanned myself. And I do a pretty good Keanu Reeves impression now that I think about it. I think Keanu's whole technique, it's sort of like he's having a conversation with himself.
Yeah.
He's like, he's looking in the mirror and he's like, am I cool? Yeah. Yeah, you totally are cool, dude. No way. Yeah.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah. You can do every Keanu moment with just Keanu's conversation with himself. Dude, did you park the car? Yeah. Are you sure, dude? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. You are? Did you park it right, dude? Yeah, I did. Cool. All right. You need to build up from there.
Oh, that's so awesome.
I think
this is why people are clamoring for Cyberpunk, man. They can't wait for that game to come out because of that.
I think Keanu is one of the best actors around that doesn't get credit for how good he is, because he is such a good movie star when he sticks to like action films and just being himself on camera. If you remember Constantine, I thought Constantine was so good, and The Matrix and all these films. But when he tries to bring that voice that's like chilled out California, and then he tries to do period pieces, it just doesn't work, you can't. Yeah, I mean, in Dracula, he's really bad, and what's Much Ado About Nothing, when he does Shakespeare, it's kind of rough. But he's also like, apparently, I've never met the dude. Actually, I have met him, but I only talked to him for like, maybe 3 minutes at a MTV awards party in my 20s. But he was a really nice guy, and apparently he's like the nicest guy on planet Earth. Apparently he's a really good dude. So are you
gonna see Bill and Ted 3?
Oh, absolutely.
Nah.
We're totally evil robots, dude. Love that. I love those were two of my favorite movies growing up. So,
yep, same
for sure. And Point Break is such a classic movie too.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't really crazy about the remake. I still like the Keanu Reeves version.
Oh, the Keanu Reeves version is just amazing. It's such a good movie, and Patrick Swayze is so fantastic in that film too. And you got crazy Gary Busey doing his thing too.
Oh yeah,
yeah. The remake was fun. It was still a good movie, but it didn't capture the magic of the original.
Yeah, the original gave a pretty good picture of surf culture.
Yeah, and
good eyeball into it.
Yeah, it did. You can't. I hate when the studio does that. I hate when they take perfect movies and try to remake them. It drives me nuts, because you just can't. When you have a movie as good as Point Break, or as good as Goonies, or as good as Ghostbusters, you can't remake those films. Those films are perfect films, and you just can't make a movie as good as the original. I like the idea of rebooting a franchise in a different way, but when they try to remake a film and they just cast different actors and make the movie again, I'm like, how can you do perfect twice? It's impossible.
Yeah, I think like a good example of like a really good reimagining was what Ron Moore did with Battlestar.
Yeah, it was wow. I feel like I'm stuck in Keanu. I can't stop talking like that. Yeah, Battlestar was great. Well, yeah, and you know, now I have lost. Now I feel like I am Keanu. I'm just totally spaced out.
You're Keanu.
Yeah, I'm forgetting what I was talking about. But yeah, Battlestar was great. I was a fan of the old Battlestar too. Like when I was on the Universal ride when I was real little. I remember that. That was Battlestar Galactica, wasn't it? Yeah, it was.
Because the old one was Lauren Green and John Colicos.
Yeah.
And, you know, some classic performances there. Dirk Benedict and
Face from the A-Team was. Yeah, he was great. I've met him a couple times too over the years.
Is he as much of a character as they say in person?
Oh yeah, he's crazy. He's absolutely crazy in a fun way. But yeah, he's crazy.
Nice.
You must have met obviously Dwight Schultz, also from the A-Team, right?
I haven't. I never got a chance to meet him. No,
really.
Yeah, he's one of the guys that just never been at the same con.
Oh man, yeah, that I've heard he's really cool.
I bet he was my favorite character when I watched it. Him and Mr. T when I was a kid.
Have you met a lot of?
I met Mr. T.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was a kid, the only reason why I was allowed to watch it was because my dad let me. My mom wasn't very crazy about it, so dad got the yes on that one. And I was like, phew. I got to watch a lot of shows like that when I was a kid when mom didn't necessarily like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my favorite brush with fame that I had was back in 2013. I got to meet Katie Sackhoff and Trisha Helfer at a charity event, and I talked to them for about a good 40 minutes or so. And you know, I mean, they were wonderful, down to earth ladies.
Katie's really sweet, really kind person.
Yeah, she is, and God, you know, she does really well with science fiction. You know, a lot of people really enjoy her work in science fiction.
I got a nod. I got a nod from Bruce Hornsby.
There you go.
Because I was at a concert, and he saw one of the kids get basically harassed by the usher, and he came out into the audience and he told I overheard the whole conversation, and he told the usher, it's like, hey man, you need to let that kid go. And after and everyone there heard what he was saying, the whole crowd cheered. Because this usher had really been abusing his authority, you know. And he looked over at me, and I guess I was the loudest one. He nodded at me, and that was cool. Have you heard of Mark Coran? He was
I know Mark Moran.
Basically, he was the lead guitarist for Rat Dog, Bob Weir's little band. Okay. And I actually got elbow to elbow with him, and he looked over at me. I looked over at him. I nodded at him, and he gave me this look like, "Okay, are you going to blow my cover?" And I just nodded at him and just kept doing what I was doing, and he looked really relieved. It's like, man, thanks for not blowing my cover.
I've worked with a ton of famous people over the years, and so I've sort of lost that nervousness around celebrity. But I remember the one knowing nod that really floored me when I was a kid. I was at the Boise Coliseum, and No Holds Barred had just come out, the movie with Zeus and Hulk Hogan. And Hulk Hogan was in a wrestling match, and he was going under the corridor that I was like hanging over the railing when I was like 7 years old. And he looked up at me and he flashed a rip symbol. I don't remember what the rip symbol was. It was like some weird hand symbol.
Kind of the hang loose thing.
Yeah, it was sort of a hang loose, but like with one knuckle shorter than the other. And he just looked me right in the eyes and flashed me a rip. And I was like, oh, nice. Man, I'm so excited. Yeah. And now my agent represents Hulk Hogan, and it's just like, no big deal.
That's cool. Well, there you go, man. You have a guest appearance by the Hulkster, brother.
Yeah. And I got to work with Rowdy Piper 6 months before he passed. I got to do a movie with him, and that was cool.
That is awesome.
Because one of my favorite sci-fi films ever in the history of sci-fi is They Live.
Absolutely.
They Live.
Absolutely.
Such a good film. And so it was a thrill to work with him for those couple of days.
Yeah.
And I had to play his boyfriend too, which was he was playing what's the King of Wit? Come on, Manu. Famous English playwright and poet. I can't believe his name is slipping. Yeah, he's like,
you stumped me on this one.
Oh my gosh! Well, if I ever come up with it, you'll know what I can't believe I can't come up with it. Who's the famous poet that we went to the place and I played his boyfriend?
Are we talking like really old?
Yeah, like we're talking like
from Scotland,
1800s English.
Robert Burns.
No,
because he's a poet too.
What is his name? Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts. Hold on.
I'm searching.
His name is Oscar Wilde. Okay. So he was playing Oscar Wilde and I was playing his lover, Robert Ross. And so we did this scene where Robert Ross is talking to Oscar and Oscar's sort of on his last legs, probably weeks away from dying. And it was a very sweet scene, but it was funny to do it with Rowdy Piper because he's so macho that we would be very sensitive and doing the scene, and then as soon as the scene was over, it would be like, oh, let's talk about wrestling. Let me tell you about Andre the Giant. And he told me some great stories about Hulk and working with those guys, and then we'd go back to the sensitive scene again, and then he'd go back to being macho, and it was fun. And then it was such a bummer because I was like, okay, I met Rowdy, I worked with Rowdy, I'm gonna bring him back. I thought he was a great actor. Yeah, and I thought like
he really was.
Yeah, I thought
underrated.
Really underrated. I felt like they didn't give him a big enough chance to really shine in more big films. And I was like, I'm gonna be the guy that makes movies and puts Rowdy in them. And then he passed away just a few months after that. So sad.
Yeah. They really missed it. You're onto something, Manu, because they really missed an opportunity, I think, with him, because he could have been The Rock before The Rock.
Yeah, I think he had the personality for sure, and he definitely had the ability when he did They Live, and for years after that, he had the muscles and he had everything that it took. It just it seems like they just didn't give him a shot. They put him in a couple of bad movies after that, and then they gave up. Like I remember there was a trucker movie that they put him in, and it was like, I forget what it was called, but it was really bad, and then they sort of gave up hope on him.
Yeah. Go ahead, PJ.
Sorry, I just wanted to get to another question from the chat.
Okay.
What kind of role that's totally out of the box for you do you want to do? Is there something like on your bucket list that?
Yeah, there's a lot of things on my bucket list. I want to play Joker. I want to play Batman. I want to play a superhero. Those are easy questions. But then a role outside. The most exciting roles to me are character roles where I can completely leave my personality behind and completely become somebody else. For me, an exciting role would be to play like a one-legged poet from the 1700s that was a amazing poet that drank too much from Scotland, something like that, to completely, that's just as an example. I didn't have but something that was that character, that deep. Nobody's given me a chance to show that I'm a character actor, and I have that ability to completely transform. And I just like the opportunity to do something like that. As far as like people in history, I'd really like to do a movie and play, and I kind of look like him. There was a playwright named Oh, okay. Here we go again with the names. He did Waiting for Godot. He wrote Waiting for Godot. He was a obscure, really famous playwright. Look up his name really quick. Just put in Waiting for Godot. Hold on a second. I'll get it. What was interesting about his life was not only was he this famous playwright. His name was Samuel Beckett, but he also worked for in World War II, I believe. He worked for the Resistance and was like a spy, and did all these incredible things during the war, and at the same time wrote all these amazing plays that he became famous for. It's either World War II or World War I. I don't remember when Beckett was around. But his story is, and then what he took from those experiences in the war and the horrible things that he saw and that he put into his plays, it would be an interesting thing to see, sort of a David Lynch sort of weird type of movie that was half his play and half his life story, and they kind of intermingled and intermixed. I think you could do a really good movie off that. I'd also like to play, this is definitely on my bucket list. Sorry, I always give like 4 answers to every question. But I would like to play, when I get older, the character from Jaws in a prequel. I think his name was Flint. Is that his name?
Right.
Yeah. And I think you should call the movie Flint, and it should be the story of when he sank in the U.S. Indianapolis and everything he had to go through with those sharks to survive that night. And
wow.
And oh yeah, that would be awesome.
Be like a Jaws prequel, and you'd call
That's interesting.
You'd call it Flint, and that would be fun to play.
It would explain his eccentricities.
Yeah,
exactly.
And maybe get to see a little bit of his life before that tragedy happened too. But the bulk of the film would be the sharks and the night that he spent, or the however many days he spent trying to. And that was a real tragedy as well. They just made a movie about the Indianapolis, but to focus directly on that character, I think would be cool.
That is a cool idea, actually.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
who else would be fun to play? What's that guy? They've never made a really good fictional creepy movie about that. He was the Russian, like he was like the voodoo doctor, or the famous doctor for the Russian Tsar. You guys know who I'm talking about?
Vaguely.
He like survived they tried to assassinate him, and they like drowned him and stabbed him and threw him in the river, and like when they found his body, they found claw marks inside the bag that he was in after he'd been stabbed and shot. And
wow.
Oh, come on, you guys Rasputin, yeah.
A Dega Outlaw put that in the chat. Thank
you, Dega Outlaw. So that would be a cool character to play, a movie about Rasputin. I'd like to do that, but like a fictional movie about Rasputin where he was like maybe a vampire, or who knows, something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's a few good pitch ideas for the writers out there, and if you guys end up writing those movies, call Manuintiraymi, because I'll kick ass playing those parts. I've been thinking about that stuff forever.
Yeah, I guess you touched on it earlier, Manu, and I was going to ask you this question. So what do you think of? I guess we say generally science fiction today, but I guess if you want to get specific, what do you think of Star Trek now as opposed to the way it was, around the 90s and early 2000s?
I'm honestly a Star Trek fan through and through. I don't think there's a bad Star Trek movie. I'm one of those Star Trek fans that doesn't pick a side, that doesn't go like the JJ universe or canon, or I don't get into all that stuff. I think Star Trek in general is just good stuff. Whether it's the action movie JJ Abrams type Star Treks that have come out recently, I thought all those movies were a ride. I thought they were fun. I thought they were funny. I thought they were well cast. They didn't have some of the, the metaphorical morality play, intellectual stuff of the earlier Star Treks that was missing, but I still felt like they were great films. And the Cumberbatch performance of Khan was like mind blowing.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, and I liked what they did with that story, kind of just retelling that story but changing it around, and I thought that was fun. And then I love all the original Star Trek films. I grew up watching them. I love the Kirk, Spock, Bones, Uhura, Chekhov, that whole crew. And then I'm really excited because when Enterprise went off the air and Star Trek was off the air for those couple of years there, it seemed as though we weren't going to have it anymore. Mm-hmm. And now this incredible resurgence has happened because of folks like Kurtzman and Roddenberry and Brian Fuller and so many of these other people that have gotten these shows back up and running. Picard looks amazing. Discovery's amazing. The Orville I think of as a Star Trek show, even though it's not. But it very much is. I mean, Seth and Brannon and the people writing that show, it's very much. I know those guys are Star Trek fans, and so they're doing their version of a similar universe. I'm excited about these new possible spin-offs in Section 31 and maybe Star Trek Academy. We're hearing rumors about. I'm just excited to see what Star Trek we have to see over the next 10 years with Picard and some of these newer incarnations, and then the next set of movies that we're going to get to see. I was really hoping, and I'm a big Quentin Tarantino fan.
Oh, I wanted that.
Me too.
So much.
Yeah, I wanted that to happen so bad. And in fact, I moved to Los Angeles. One of the biggest reasons that I chased my career as an actor was I saw Pulp Fiction when I was 17 years old, and that story was so powerful, and the storytelling and the way that they told that movie out of order and it was just stuff I'd never seen before. And I went, if this is what Hollywood is making, I need to be a part of this. And I moved out here, and I've never gotten a chance to even meet Tarantino. I ran around with his crazy buddy Lawrence Turney for like a year. The late Lawrence Turney, before he died, he played the old man in Mr. White, not Mr. White, but the old guy in
Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs, yeah, he was the "Yo, Mr. Pink," he was the old, and he was absolutely crazy. And I was young, and he would just use me to drive him around town and run his errands and buy him chocolate bars because he was diabetic and nobody else would get them for him. And he would get drunk and shoot holes in his ceiling, and then I'd have to go home. But he was crazy, and I always felt like if I got a chance just to get in the room with Quentin, we could talk about Lawrence Tierney and his craziness and bond over that, and then I could possibly get to go to work for this man, and especially if he was directing Star Trek. Yeah. I feel like I'm the perfect actor to fit his Star Trek world because I'm very much a rated R actor. That's it's my type of film. I tend to gravitate towards stuff that is rated R. I'm good at those kind of characters and that kind of comedy and that kind of dark drama. So I would have liked to have seen that. I don't know if that possibility is still open or not. I haven't kept up with it, but I'm excited. In general, I'm just excited to see that. I'm excited that we have so much new Star Trek and that there's more coming down the pipeline.
Manu, I don't know if you can answer this question, but we want to ask you anyway. Has Manu Intiraymi auditioned for Orville, or is he planning to?
I haven't auditioned for it. In fact, I put out that tweet because I noticed that a bunch of my friends had been on the show. One night I was just surfing the internet, and I was like, oh, Tim has done the show, and oh, Marina has done the show, and I hired Marina for a movie called Fifth Passenger that I produced a few years ago, and then I started just looking at the show, and I saw how many friends I had over there, so I was like, God, I'd love to do that show. That show's fantastic. I didn't know that so many people that I knew, were a part of. I didn't know that Brannon worked over there until just a couple weeks ago. So I haven't auditioned for it yet. I'd love to be on it in whatever way, shape, or form they'd have me. I would be thrilled to come on, even for just an episode. I'd love it. So hopefully that'll happen. Maybe if the fans keep asking for it, maybe they'll respond. I'll definitely keep, hassling the people I know over there to give me a chance to come on board. But yeah, I mean, I'd be thrilled to come on the Orville, but I haven't auditioned for it yet.
Well, I can speak for most of Orville Nation that I think most of the Orville fans would be very thrilled.
Yeah,
Thank you.
A whole lot of people would be pumped.
I'm curious.
Totally.
I'm curious because I'll bring this up if you guys aren't going to, because I'm curious about, do you have any people in your chat room that have asked any questions that are negative?
No.
Not that I've seen. No.
Because I did this stupid tweet, and you beat yourself up over these things because social media is such a powerful medium, and I'm an old guy, so I don't really realize this, and I'm also semi self-destructive. And one night I heard about the Kevin Spacey thing with Anthony Rapp, and I just heard about it. I hadn't even seen the news yet. I hadn't even looked it up, and I just tweeted out emotionally, whatever, and I said something to the effect of, leave the guy alone. He just came on to the kid. He didn't rape him or anything. It's no big deal. Shut up. And that has caused at least, I think, 1% of the Star Trek fan base to completely disown me and hate me, and a big part of the gay culture fan base, which I am the most. That's fine. I'm in the middle of this. That's fine. No, I'm fine. And that's been a bummer to me because I'm pansexual and bisexual, and I think I prescribe to the theory of like Kinsey, that as far as sexuality, we're all on a sliding scale of sexuality, that nobody's gay or straight. And if you put a straight man in prison, you'll find out sooner or later that he's going to need love too. So I feel like I'm so sad that one little tweet has caused, people to, just sort of think that I'm a conservative, hateful human being, and I got a huge backlash over that, and I tried to apologize for it because at the time I didn't know that Kevin Spacey had all these other allegations. All I knew was I met Kevin Spacey when I was 17. The guy gave me a Cuban cigar and welcomed me to Hollywood, and I sat on the lot, and I was so stoked, and I sat and I smoked a Cuban cigar with Kevin Spacey. And I didn't smoke it with him, but him and what's that little short actor that is so fantastic, Danny DeVito, who made so many great films. It was out of his stash, and so out of like an emotional response, I just said, leave the guy alone. And that one tweet has brought just he's a pedophile defender, he's a terrible human being, and I feel like, I hope that at this point, the sci-fi fan base and the Star Trek fan base, a lot of people, I hope, have realized that I not only apologized to Anthony Rapp, he not only accepted and understood that, sometimes you say things out of turn. But I hope other people have relaxed about it too, and given me
Manu,
more of a chance as a human to not base what people think about me off of a tweet.
Mm-hmm.
Manu, let me just say that we have seen, that's the first I'm hearing about it. We have seen, and we've scoured social media. We've seen nothing but love for you. And first of all, let me just say that. And second of all, I think you bring up a really important issue that I think is not discussed regarding all these kind of situations like that you're talking about. And when you hear about, like, because I've heard stories about different kind of teenage actors, when you're hearing about 14-year-old teenage actors going to certain parties and stuff, I also think there's that it has to be talked about the parenting of child actors. I think parents need to prepare, and maybe they shouldn't be going to certain parties, or they shouldn't be doing certain things. And I think the parenting of Hollywood actors is something that should be brought up more. Responsible parenting.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
I certainly got myself into some trouble in my years out here because I didn't have a really strong parental support. And I love my parents if they're listening. I love you guys. I don't have hold any hate to any bad feelings. But just also the social media machine. That's what I wanted to bring up the most, is that there are people out there that can say a few things on social media that might be taken the wrong way.
Oh, sure.
And we shouldn't be so quick to judge somebody over a couple of tweets. They might have just been having a bad day. They might have just said something out of anger. And I think our culture in general, for me as a 41-year-old guy, I spent a lot of my time treating social media like it wasn't even real. Like it wasn't even the real me. I looked at Facebook and Instagram and Twitter as like just some other personality that I could say whatever I wanted to, almost like an Eminem Slim Shady, type of thing. And I found out
the longest time you could.
Yeah, but not now. Now it's like, and I found out very quickly that if you don't establish your Slim Shady character, that if you say anything outside the lines of political correctness, and I'm a comedian too, so it's like I've found that it's been really hard for me to be myself on social media, and I'm trying to find that place where I'm not judged as a hateful person, because to me I wish the best for Anthony Rapp, and I wish the best for Kevin Spacey, and I kind of hope that he's learned his lesson for the things that he's done. But I also hope, and this is probably going to get me in trouble, but I also hope that at some point, if he has learned his lesson for the things that he's done, that mankind will forgive him and let the man work. If he's, there's a thing called serving your time or getting the punishment for what is due. And if he gets that, then I feel like destroying a guy's career sometime is, and I felt like when I defended him, and I went and looked at all the things that came out afterwards, and I realized I was wrong, and I went, oh my God, there's a lot of allegations this guy has acted out of line over the years in a really bad way. So I went back and said sorry, but I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I just think,
you were commenting on something that you obviously weren't totally informed on, and
and doing it from an emotional place, just doing it from hey, that guy was nice to me, he's not a rapist, he didn't rape the kid. But when it comes down to it, he did a lot of things that were out of line. But I don't think that we should be condemning gay men that maybe touch other gay men in a bar for the rest of their lives and stop them from being able to earn an income, depending on what it is that they did, of course. but so many people are getting just destroyed for
Sure.
speaking their minds and losing their entire career. I mean, you know, Dave Chappelle, one of the greatest comedians of our time, is fighting that battle between, you know, being able to say just jokes, just plain old jokes, you know.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, there's like this hypersensitivity, and you know, their Twitter sort of over the years devolved into like that mob mentality, you know, and see, like Manu, I get it to a degree. There's sometimes like for the publication I write for example, sometimes I'll put out an article and I'll tweet it out, and then I'll get responses, you know, name calling and whatever, even if I wrote a well-reasoned and logical piece, but you can't please everybody, and they'll just come out and squawk at you on Twitter. It's just the mentality of it now. It didn't used to be that way, but now that we're in sort of like this hypersensitive time, it seems to be like the trend right now. And the same thing with what you alluded to with a lot of these like sort of cancel culture mobs that come after people, like they did after Dave Chappelle, and you know, even most recently when Ricky did his monologue at the Golden Globes. Look what happened! All the stuff that he was taking for it.
I mean, there was actually also, after I defended Kevin in that instance, a lady even started a petition to ban me from every single Star Trek convention around the world because I was a pedophile defender, and she said I was dangerous to all the children that might be there. And I was like, wow. And, you know, 800 people signed this thing. It wasn't like a giant thing, but just the fact that it happened was, I don't know, really sad to me. And I don't know. I just want people out there to just judge a little bit less. And I guess that's always been a problem for us as human beings. And social media didn't start it, but it certainly elevated the level of damage we can do to each other by being judgmental and not really giving people a chance. I always tell people when it was really to end this. There was a beautiful moment that happened to me recently where a person that hated me from social media, from the posts that I had done, I posted about wanting to have sex with a figure skater, a famous figure skater, and that was very what's it called, sexist towards women and machismo, and you know, it was a stupid thing to say. And I did this Kevin Spacey thing, and then I also commented on a Trump quote, and I hate Donald Trump, you know, and I commented on a Trump thing that about him say as well. And so I have like these 3 tweets out there that have haunted me for like the last 4 years. And I'm sorry, you guys, I keep losing my train of thought. I had a point here.
It's all right.
Right.
This beautiful thing happened where this man contacted me and said, you know, I think you're a despicable human being. I hope you never get a job on the Orville. I hope you never get a job again in any of the sci-fi universes. I think you're gross, blah, 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 blah. But he wrote me in my direct message, and I thought that was really kind, first of all, to do it on my direct message and not just to like do it out there and try to destroy me as a person. So I wrote back to him, and we had a conversation, you know, and at the end of it, he was like, oh my God, you're actually a pretty decent person and a lot more like me than I thought you were. And a lot, you know, I'm a liberal lefty, you know, and I have friends that are full on conservative Christian, you know, I don't judge people based on any sort of thing except for their humanity, you know.
Exactly. And that's what I think a lot of people forget, dude. We're very much, you know, we bleed the same blood. We are very much more alike than people think, but they seem to have forgotten that because, you know, everybody feels like they have to be separated by this narrative or that narrative or this party or that party or this value system, and you don't. You take the person next to you on their merits. If they treat you like a good human being and you treat them like a good human being, hey, you're going to be cool, man. You're going to be fine. and people have forgotten that. And I hope that, you know, it turns back to where people actually remember that, because it's what makes the best friendships.
Because it was the coolest thing to see this person that was like a big time hater come to me and talk to me personally. And then they were cool enough on top of that to then go back to Twitter and post the whole conversation that we'd had and said, you know what, this guy's actually an all right guy. And, you know, it was really just as touching as anything else that's ever happened to me in fandom. So, you know, just wanted to end on that hopefully we can quit judging each other for the labels. Labels in general are such a stupid thing, you know?
Hey, Katie might have a weather report. She's in the green room.
Oh, sweet.
Like,
oh, okay. Thanks for telling me. We'll bring her on to. We don't want to keep you too much longer. Just bring her on to say goodbye.
I have a giant icicle.
Whoa!
This is from our roof. I just got done with our broadcast. Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Wow. That is huge.
Yeah. I thought I'd bring it in. It's currently melting all over my dress. But it's
you know, Katie, you could kill a dragon with that thing. Good God.
Oh, yeah. No, it could easily crush a small animal. it's so bad.
Oh, my God.
It's 20 below outside. There's icicles, and I'm loving it.
You should get like one of those ice sculptors to make like a Witcher sword out of that.
Yes.
Like go around sporting that thing.
We have icicles outside right now. They're from the roof to the ground, I'm pretty sure. So I might just go and make one of those tonight.
Nice.
If you guys watch, you should watch this. I did a really fun B-movie horror movie called Xenophobia that's just there to watch, to have fun, slasher about aliens and abductions.
Nice.
If you don't want to watch the whole movie, you don't have to, but watch the trailer, because I swear that icicle looks exactly like the magic crystal that I'm holding.
Oh my God.
Great. That is great.
Yeah, just look up Xenophobia trailer. You'll see me holding that icicle. I swear to God.
So technically I have a prop replica, right? So...
Yeah,
there you go.
Nature's version of a replica of my magic alien crystal. That is an amazing icicle. Oh my gosh.
I want to have a sword fight with someone. Like this. Oh, this is so cool.
You can literally kill somebody with that and get away with it, because it would melt and it would go away. And you know,
like a magic bullet.
No evidence.
What happens in Sioux City stays in Sioux City, right?
Exactly.
Well, Manu, we don't want to. You've been with us for quite a while, and we don't want to hold you up anymore. But
okay. Thank you guys for having me, and nice to meet you, Katie. Nice to meet all you guys.
Nice to meet you too.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me on too.
Manu, you're welcome back anytime. You know, and if you ever want support, or things come up, or you got to get a message out or whatever it is, just contact us, and we're here for you. Okay, man.
Cool. Let me plug a couple things before I go real quickly. If you want to see some of my recent films, I'm in a film called Xenophobia. We just talked about. You can see it on Amazon. I also just came out in a really, really, really bad, hokey, like B movie that is like the worst of B movies ever. But it's one of those movies that's so bad it's kind of funny to watch. Called Cross. 3 Rise of the Villains. It's like me and Danny Trejo and Vinnie Jones and Brian Austin Green. and it's like, what's that other actor, Richard Grieco, and it's like all the it's really terrible. But it's amazing in its own way of just how terrible it is. But I'm also in some good films, and there's a film that I produced and star in called Hell on the Border that just came out, which is about Bass Reeves, the first African-American sheriff, actually African-American U.S. Marshal. And that is available also on Amazon and on video on demand right now. And the DVD comes out in February. And a bunch of other movies, Unbelievable, and
were you also in J. Edgar Hoover in the Edgar movie?
I was in J. Edgar. Yeah, I worked 2 days on that film, and my part was supposed to be a lot bigger, but they cut all 3 villains from that movie, and I'm only in it for a very short period. But I am in J. Edgar, and I got directed by Clint Eastwood. I have a good story about that, but I'll save that for next time.
Nice. Sounds
And
good.
yeah, there's a bunch of good movies coming out. Follow me on Twitter or Facebook, and you can see all of the good things that are coming out this year or that I'm working on if you check me out on IMDb.
Great. And we will set up links to this video on YouTube. So a lot of those links will be so you guys can catch it on the replay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thank you, Manu.
guys.
Thanks.
Thank you guys. Adios.
Thank you,
Adios.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Fun, man. Really like.
Thank you, Manu. Have a great
Bye-bye.
night. Thank you guys for being here. And thank you, everybody in Orville Nation. Thank you, Tink, yes and again, Jamal, Dega, Taylor, everybody in here and everybody who's been here. Thank you, everybody. Bye, guys.
Thank you.